Good morning, Ridge Rockers Fantasy Football League. Welcome to the Week 9 recap video for this season in 2021. It was a very unique week. I won. A bunch of people put up very low scores and lost. And, surprise, Social Justice Warrior got their first victory against the Bayside Tigers. And if you remember in last week's video, this guy told you it was going to happen. I'd like to welcome to the show my new friend, Archibald. I know you can't see it. That's because I'm a 40-year-old who can't grow facial hair. Yeah, sad but true. It's all right, though. I've got a huge dick. That being said, let's move right into the results from Week 9. Gender Unicorn fell to the media 120 to 140.64 points. That represents the week's biggest score of the week, and that's why my Johnson's bigger than yours. Nut and Butt Sacks fell to Raider Nation 67 to 131 points. Bayside Tigers, as I mentioned, lost to the Social Justice Warrior 85 to a sad 93. Jags lost to the Booty Lickers 104 to 137 points. Missing My Young Ho put up this week low score at 63.06 points against Team Suckaditka, who remain atop the standings at 8-1 with 127 points. And the Roster Baiters somehow managed to beat out Championship for Miles 88 to 76 points. That was a really worthless game to watch. All that being said, that puts our standings, as I mentioned, with Team Suckaditka atop the board at 8-1. Nut and Butt Sacks comes in second, Roster Baiters third. Raider Nation representing fourth place, which, I mean, we've mentioned the turnaround before of that team, which is pretty spectacular. Bayside Tigers in fifth, Jags still holding on to sixth place somehow. The media in seventh, Missing My Young Ho in eighth. Booty Lickers in ninth, Championships for Miles, starting the big losers out in 10th. Gender Unicorn still holding on to that 11th place, with the record that's the same as Social Justice Warrior at 1-8. That becomes a prelude for our game of the week, Week 10. Let's talk about what that looks like. The media plays the Championships for Miles. As I mentioned, game of the week, Social Justice Warrior against Gender Unicorn. Whoever loses that game will end up at the bottom of this pack in the caboose position, and that household will have one more thing to complain about. Bayside Tigers plays Raider Nation. That's another good game, with third and fourth place playing each other. Nut and Butt Sacks goes up against the Booty Lickers. Missing My Young Ho plays Jags. And the Roster Baiters play Team Suckaditka. And that's important because that's 1 and 3 playing each other. And I misspoke earlier. Bayside Tigers versus Raider Nation is fourth and fifth place. So some standings implications in those matchups this week. Should be a good one. Now, before we get into the comments from other players, I'm going to address something that occurred last week that some people took offense or had things to say. I mentioned in last week's video that I stood with Aaron Rodgers concerning his COVID vaccination status, and I still do. Back the man 100%, which is why I had every intention of starting him last week, even though he was not going to play because of COVID protocols. My official statement at this time and forever has been that unfortunately, I had Carson Wentz set up to play already because Aaron Rodgers had no active wide receivers, as seen in Week 8. So my Week 9 matchup, I had already put Wentz in my starting quarterback position. When I made the video and intended to start Rodgers, I didn't realize it was 1, Thursday, and 2, that Wentz played on Thursday night. Mistake anybody could have made. Wentz went on to put up 30 points as a quarterback, which helped me beat Gender Unicorn this week. So, for the record, and because I know Aaron's watching, I still got you. You're my boo. Stay strong. Screw the man. Moving into the comments for the week, and there are some good ones. Let's start with team owner of Suckaditka. His long and distinguished comment was this. I asked him about his turnaround from previous seasons in which we knew that Miss Suckaditka was actually running the games. The magic ingredient for my off-season turnaround is simple. It was moving to a red county. Living in constant fear that Christy Clark would break down my door and steal my guns in the middle of the night caused so much stress that fantasy football was an afterthought. We can all relate. Since moving to, not only do I no longer live in fear of losing my 2A right, but not having to wear a mask every time I leave the house has helped me think clear on a weekly basis. My county's better than yours. I can't argue that. This week's matchup against the Roster Baiters will be tough. The Roster Baiters are the clear fan favorite. Their dedication and commitment to this league is stuff legends are made of. One year, the Roster Baiters FaceTime in for a draft while on vacation in Amsterdam at 2 a.m. Most men would have been in the red light district at the time, but not team owner of the Roster Baiters. And while people seem to be moving out of the neighborhood in droves, team owner of Roster Baiters uprooted his family and moved him back to the Ridge. Now that's dedication. It is. In closing, I would like to say how incredibly embarrassed and disappointed I am in the Bayside Tigers this week for losing to Social Justice Warriors. I haven't been this disappointed in the Bayside Tigers since they allowed the oil company to dig on the football field, which in return killed poor innocent Becky the duck. How dare you, team owner of Bayside Tigers? How dare you? Yeah. All right. Well, as I mentioned, Raider Nation had this to say. My team is just plodding along, grinding out wins. Unlike the real Raiders, Raider Nation is staying out of all the drama in this unethical league. Just keeping our head down and doing the work. I warned everyone not to take my team lightly, and now we're in a solid position to make the playoffs. That is true. Raider Nation is in a strong position going into the second half of the season, which is even more noticeable because during the draft, they were using a fantasy football guide from 5 years ago and down in Fireball like it was water. So I'm super proud of him. Team owner of Social Justice Warrior had this to say about his victory. Social justice has finally been delivered. Woke culture is finally back. I've had this game circled on my calendar because it's my chance to truly restore the world to what it once was. Beating Second Mom this week may just secure his loser's trophy and bring balance back to the universe. It may. I wish you all the luck in the game of the week, because honestly, I'd rather have Social Justice Warrior win over Gender Unicorn. I asked him if he had anything to say about the fact that the media predicted his victory. He said this: I would believe anything that the media tells me at this point. They could tell me Biden actually won the election and I'd believe it. They could tell me vaccine mandates are perfectly fine and I'd believe it. He didn't. They aren't. They could tell me team owner of Championships for Miles team sucks and I'd definitely believe it. It does. The media is riding high right now. Yeah, we are. We've got a winning record of 5-4 and I'm pretty proud of that. It's been a tough season, but we're really, coming out on top. And this week, playing Championships for Miles myself, I think I'm going to get a W there too. Finally, I'd like to make a couple comments about my own self. Okay? Before we get to Bayside Tigers, I just got to say something to come clean about. I know that I've been telling you guys that I stand by Aaron Rodgers, and I do. But last week during the video recap, I said I was going to start him in my fantasy football lineup, and I didn't. I said it was a mistake, but the truth is I was never going to do it. As soon as I stopped recording, I put Carson Wentz in my starting lineup. I knew exactly what I was doing. I just wanted you guys to think that I'm not a snowflake, so that's why I lied to each and every one of you on last week's video. I can't promise I won't lie again because, well, let's face it, I'm the media. And you guys know the truth about me standing with Aaron. Man, that feels to get that off my chest. I feel great right now. I'm going to keep this going. Let's see. Oh, I know. It's just me, or do you guys find raspberry sherbet to be absolutely delightful? Just the best dessert. Oh, and speaking of the best, you know what feels the best? When I am just super angry or emotional and just need to get my feelings out, I always just have a really good session of writing in my journal. Oh, and speaking of journal writing, this is something that I've only written in my journal, but since I'm being truthful and honest, I feel like I'm in a safe place and can share with you guys. My friends, okay, here goes. I have a small penis. And I'm not just saying that. It's abnormally small. Like the doctor said, it's called tiny peckeritis or something like that. But good news is my wife says it's not how big or small my little dick is. It's how I use it. And clearly I know how to use it because every time we have sex, I finish. So obviously I know what I'm doing. Okay, that was great. Thanks for indulging me, and back to the comments. So, Bayside Tigers has this to say about his loss. That fucking sucked. Sounds like somebody needs a good journal writing session, am I right? That being said, game of the week, Gender Unicorn versus Social Justice Warrior. And in case you missed it, that entire last comment was all written by owner of Bayside Tigers. None of that was true. I did intend to start Aaron Rodgers, and I have a huge dick. Remember, fantasy football is really all that matters. And in case you couldn't tell, I'm still here on location. But I swear to God, next week I'll be back home, one way or another. Have a great weekend. Hopefully you lose or win, depending on your current record and how it helps me. This is the media signing off.